learner lovers, this is Tracy from Totally Not Taboo. This is where we talk about everything about sex and sexuality that is taboo. So welcome after a long break. We are back in studio, and today I have an amazing, exciting, charismatic guest in studio. It is Sharon Gordon of Lola Montez. And I'm so excited to have Sharon here with me today. I've been waiting for this moment for quite a long time. And I'm going to introduce Sharon, and then we're going to get onto the podcast where we're going to talk to her about her life in the sex industry, so to speak, and just to find out how she got into it, her experiences through life. I have to warn listeners, you will probably be in stitches the most of the way. She's very charismatic. So just to remind you that this is really, we talk about everything that is taboo on this podcast. So we don't have to mind our P's and Q's here. So Sharon is driven, independent, and a fearless woman. She will change how you see yourself, your business, and your potential. During the 80s, she was a human rights lawyer, instrumental in running the first legal strike in South Africa. During this period, when labor law was in its infancy, she was involved in groundbreaking law. Some of the trials she was involved in included treason, sabotage, public violence, and on a lighter note, chicken theft. She then moved to the corporate world as a labor consultant, after which she was appointed as the CEO for human rights for Billiton International. This is where she learned that power tastes like cream soda. In 1997, Sharon embarked on her life as an entrepreneur, from trains to books and a lot in between. In 2002, she tackled the adult industry in South Africa and started the well-recognized brand Lola Montez. Never afraid of challenging perceptions and taboos, this is where she found her voice as a speaker, educator, entertainer, relationship engineer, and wisdom seeker, and fearless teller of necessary truths. She has published 3 books and a column in the Saturday Star, and is a regular guest on radio and television. After serving as a senior Dignity Dreams board member in 2017, Sharon was appointed as the CEO of Dignity Dreams, an NGO that manufactures and distributes washable, eco-friendly sanitary pads. A copy of the Dignity Dreams information can be included for those who wish to read it. In her capacity as an educator, Sharon gives talks on menstrual health and hygiene, sexual health, relationships, and living, rich, happy, and hot. For more information on the topics, please visit Sharon at lolamontez.co.za. Wow. What can I say? You're my muse. And I remember, Sharon, it was 2013. I was newly divorced and I was renovating my home. So that's how I know where I was. And I was becoming this enlightened person, sexually emancipated, and researching life after divorce, sex after divorce, marriage. Why does marriage end? Why do we get married? What is infidelity? Why does it happen? Why does sex break down? All these beautiful questions I had. And I'd come across your adult store sometime in the past, and Lola Montez. Oh, I remember. I'd driven past it
as people do.
As people do, on the corner of, what was it, Glenhoven, Oxford Road.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah. And I think I emailed you and I said, Sharon, blah, 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 and please can I come and meet you? And you said, yes, of course, whatever, da, da, da. And I walked in and there you were, this vision, tall and imposing in a very positive and dominating and like just confident way, with this shock of red hair, well, not red, but it was auburn hair. And you welcomed me, and I can't say I wasn't intimidated. I was so intimidated. Here, this woman of the world, and here I was just so naive and coming into all these questions. And I said to her, oh, Sharon, like I was a real groupie. Oh, Sharon, this is just so amazing, and you're so amazing, and all these toys, and I don't know, I was falling all over my feet. And I said, don't you just love sex or something? And you said to me, to be honest with you, sometimes I'd rather be stabbed than fucked.
I still feel that way.
And I couldn't stop laughing. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's so not how I feel. So that is my very first memory of you. And then I started telling you about what I wanted to do. And you said, there's somebody you need to meet. And you put me in touch with Anne-Marie Clulo. And I went to visit her at your shop when it had moved to Morningside. And Annie and I just hit it off. And she was just speaking my language. She was affirming everything that I thought to be true about relationships, marriage, sex, women, men, etc. And then I ended up doing my own sexual healing with her, and she then trained me to be an intimacy coach. So thank you.
It's a pleasure.
You are like the impetus for where I am today. So thank you.
Funny enough, I don't really remember people who come to the shop, because I don't think it's good for them or for me. Because, if I'm walking down Sandton City and I see you, I'm not going to say, hi, Tracy, when last did you come to the sex shop?
And how was that toy?
Yeah, and how was that toy that I sold you? So I don't actually remember people, but I do remember you coming in. And I do remember that you were quite lost. And I think it resonated with me because that's where I was when I started Lola Montez. I was in that exact places. I'd come out of my marriage. I'd felt incredibly betrayed. I thought that I'd never have sex again. I was very hurt. And that's how it started. So, I can share that story with you. But I remember you resonated with me because I knew where you were, and I knew where you could get. And I'm so happy to see that you got there, because you did. And isn't that a great story?
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, it really is. So why don't you tell our listeners how you got into the industry, what led you to the adult store adult toy industry, adult world? Okay,
so, I think, like every South African, I grew up in an incredibly conservative home. So one of the things that I always hear at the shop is, oh, well, in my community. And I go, well, your community is not different to mine. We all grew up in this really conservative community. Recently, there was a post on social media where they want to talk to my grade 8 child about sex. Should I allow it? And I'm going, you should have allowed it when they were in grade 2. Like, what's wrong with you? So basically what happened was I went through, the compulsory divorce in your 40s. And I think what's sad about the 40s is if our husbands just hung on for a little while longer, they would realize that we were going to be having the best sex of our lives during our 40s. Because finally, our mothers' voices in our heads are not saying, you're a slut. If you enjoy sex, you're going to go to hell. In your 40s, you go, just shut up. Move on. And so in your 40s, you really come into your sexual power and you start exploring, and you're a little bit bored with missionary and you'd like to try other things. And so it's a blooming of sort. And that's normally when our husbands run off and have sex with 20-year-olds who really know nothing. So, and you know what? They deserve them because we're moving on to better things. So that happened to me, and you know, it was a terrible betrayal, and I was very hurt, and all those sorts of things. And I thought, well, here I am in my 40s. Nobody's ever going to love me again, because who loves an old woman? You know, I've now got older, and it's a consistent question, which maybe we can explore a little bit more. And I knew that sex was good for me because, you know, it keeps you looking younger, it keeps you healthier, it keeps your immune system up, it makes you happy, it combats depression, all those sorts of things. So when you're going through that, you really should be having a lot more sex because it helps. And I just thought, well, you know what? There is a solution. I can go and get myself a vibrator. And one happy Friday, I have a very good friend, and we went to, we didn't go that day. That first Friday, I decided I was going to buy a vibrator, and I had to go into one of those shops, you know, those sticky, dirty, where the guy behind the counter looks like he's just played with himself kind of yuck shop. And I couldn't go in. I just could not go in. The following Friday, my friend and I had 3 tequilas for breakfast, and then I was a dapper mess. And then I could walk, I could do anything, you know, no shame, and I parked right in front of the shop on Corlett Drive. I stomped in, you know, through the beaded curtain, my plucky stuck to the floor. I bought my first vibrator, and I'll even share what it was. It was because in those days, they don't look like they look today.
No.
You know, they were all made of jelly, so they were all that sort of jelly color. It was bright pink. It had fabulous girth. It was 8 inches, and I called it Softy. Don't know why, but it was Softy. And Softy made me very happy for many, many years.
I hope it got hardy.
Anyway, so Softy and I went home, and as I drove out, I just thought, I feel so dirty. I feel like I need to go past the Sandton fire station. They must hose me down because this was just the most awful shopping experience. And I got home and I thought, you know what? Why do we have to feel that way? We don't have to shop like that. You know, this is it was still the 20th century in those days, and you know, like let's change this. And so I went to, it took a while for me to process, and I went to Erotica in London, and it's a very big, it's like the Sexpo here, or the Sex Expo as it is now, but much bigger. It's 5 rugby fields big.
Sure.
It's huge. Dieter von Teese performs, you know, it's like, seriously, it's a wonderful thing. And I filled 3 suitcases of toys. And I came through customs, and I actually declared them. They said, what's in the bag? I went, sex toys? And they went,
Okay, go through.
So I said, would you like to see them? And they said, no, you can go. And that Saturday, I had a market day at my house. And I literally sold everything bar one lot of handcuffs. And had 50 Shades of Grey already been happening, it would also have sold. But I had 1 set of handcuffs left. Paid for my trip, paid for my hotel, paid for all the toys, and paid for me to basically start exploring this. I thought, well, this is a sign. If this is a sign, I found it. I then had a party at my house, and I invited a large range. I don't have lots of friends, but I know lots of people. And so I invited literally Mother Teresa and the local hooker, you know, and everybody was there. And I walked around with a strap-on on. Okay. And everybody had some tequilas, and the lines that I use when I teach actually come from that party still, you know, because they were, the girls were hysterical. You know, so a vibrating cock ring became a VCR. You know, so we still talk about VCRs. And in fact, the industry now talks about VCRs. And that comes from that party.
Amazing.
And so Lola Montez was born. And, you know, as you know, the shops, I don't have a shop at the moment. I closed the last one in December. Retail and rents are just killing everybody. And I think that until the landlords wake up, we're going to be in trouble. But the shops were beautiful. They smelled beautiful. We only employed women in them. They had chandeliers, beautiful comfy chairs. You know, you could touch and feel all the toys. And I think one of the things that people forget is that I was the second person in the world, not South Africa, in the world, who allowed people to touch and feel sex toys before they bought them.
Wow.
The only other people who did it was Good Vibrations in San Francisco. And at one stage, I owned 4 boutique adult stores, and worldwide there were only 300.
Wow.
So,
What an achievement.
so I do believe that I revolutionized the industry because because even in those days, Ann Summers was around, but it was lingerie, and then right at the back there were like 3 vibrators, but you couldn't touch and feel them. You just, and you had to sort of ask somebody if you could have it, And I think when you're selling sex toys, you can't lose as you walk into the store, because that's the excitement of it. It mustn't be like walking into a pharmacy. I think that you do need to keep that little bit of excitement and tantalizing in it.
Absolutely.
And so, and that's how it was born. And I mean, it's 22 years now.
Amazing.
That I've been going.
Yeah. Where did the name come from, Lola Montez?
Okay, so my favorite author is a South American writer called Isabel Allende.
Oh, love her.
Okay, and she wrote a book called Aphrodite. Yes. And if you remember, in the beginning, she talks about if she could have her life over, is she would do 2 things. One was out of vanity and one was out of morality, that she didn't do it. The first one is she would eat more because, food is glorious, and she would fuck more because it's so good for you and it's so fantastic. And she refers to a courtesan called Lola Montez, who actually was Irish but ran the Bavarian, she had an affair with the Bavarian king, King Ludwig. And she was a courtesan on 3 continents. And I mean, she died early. I think she was dead at 36 or whatever. She died in America. And I just loved the name. And I just thought, because originally Lola Montez was all about bringing back the art of love. And who understood the art of love more than the courtesans? Because that was their job. They needed to understand the art of love. And to a large extent, I hope that the brand is still that, is that it explores the art of love. And in those days, it was very much towards the art of love for your partner, for life, for whatever. And I now realize that unless you love yourself, it's a little bit hard to love other people. But, I'm old now.
Yeah. And those kinds of lessons can only be learned as we get older and we experience life. And it's one of the things that I wish I could teach younger women, that is how important it is to love yourself.
Yeah, I think the thing that bugs me the most about young girls, and I'm talking about sort of that age from 14 to maybe 23-ish, when that front cortex hasn't developed yet, is the stuff they will do to be loved.
Oh.
The compromises they will make to be loved. It's cringeworthy, and you just think, my word, like why? Why would we do this to ourselves? And it doesn't get much better. I mean, you just have to look at the dating apps. If you're not having sex on a first date, there's no second date. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Has sex become that cheap? And please, believe me, I'm the first one to say, if you want to have sex, have it. But I think that women are having it to be loved.
Sure.
To just, yeah. So I've got a very conflicted view about sort of first date sex. Not that that's what we're here to talk about, but
well, we can talk about anything. But as you're speaking, I remember I am not really loved among many of my community members, especially the women. Obviously, the women. They think that I'm far too outspoken and I have the most outlandish ideas. But as you were talking about that little girl, 14, who just wants to be liked, My dream for young girls is to have their mothers or their significant caregiver to be teaching them the joy of self-pleasure. Because when you know how to pleasure yourself and you have experienced that wonderful orgasm that you can achieve yourself, you're not so keen to be going behind the bicycle shed with the little boy.
Doesn't know what he's doing and he isn't going to give you an orgasm anyway.
No, you're just giving him a blowjob, and you're standing there. When you're enlightened,
Yes.
you're not then saying, you're walking away, well, you're standing there thinking, what about me?
Yeah.
That was nice for you, but hang on, what's in this for me? And when you know that there's going to be nothing in that for you,
Then what's the point?
Yeah.
I think one of the things probably where we agree the most is that, you should be talking to your children about their genitals and pleasure from the minute that's shot out of your vagina, basically, and I still don't understand why people are so terrified to talk to their children about sex and to allow their children to touch themselves, but when we're teaching our children when they're growing up, we don't allow them to take a shit in the middle of the lounge. We say, no, darling, that happens in the bathroom. So, if they're touching their genitals, don't shame them. You just say, no, darling, that I know that feels lovely, but you do it in your bedroom or you do it in your bathroom and you close the door. Because I always say, if girls know how wonderful their bodies are and how powerful they are and how fantastic that orgasm is, when some little shit puts his hand in her lap at movies and she feels that tingle, she doesn't go, oh, I must be in love. Because that's not love, darling. That's just what your body's telling you is nice. And it's got absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with him. Nothing. It's your body. It's meant to do that. And again, if you allow your daughter to masturbate and you allow her to experience that pleasure, and he says to her, oh, please, can I stick it in just a little bit? She's going to go, nah, I don't think so, because sticking it in a little bit isn't actually going to do it for me. And please, will you give me a blowjob? Well, I tell you what, 10 laps and then 1 lick. You come and lap me 10 times and then maybe I'll lick you once.
Correct.
Because, let me think about that. No.
Yeah. And
actually, I'm going to take photos of you and send it to my friends.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be a rage? Completely. And I think it's, as you were saying, so what I often tell people is that the reason we're not teaching our children about self-pleasure and the pleasures of sex is because we are so traumatized by our own sexuality and our own body shaming as children, by our own first experiences that locked ourselves, that we now find, I'm getting lost with words, imprisoning ourselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's where that word comes from. In my community, we don't. Well, break it. Nobody says you've got to continue the crap. Just, and I think you and I fit into very much the same boat, is that we are intimidating. And fortunately I found a partner very soon after I got divorced, actually, who was, and who I've tried all the sex toys with, because you've got to try them, because otherwise you can't sell them. And I think the thing is that we are intimidating. So I don't know about you, but the effect that being in the sex industry has had on me is first of all, now I'm going to a bar mitzvah, or I'm going to a party, or I'm going to a wedding, and I'm sitting next to Mr. Random, or Mr. and Mrs. Random, which is really nice. That's my best. Because so then what you do is that they say, so hi, who are you? I go, hi, I'm Sharon. And they say, so what do you do? And I love that question because, I love the shock value that my answer gives. And I go, oh, I'm in the sex industry. And you can see him going, I wonder if I can give her a quickie in the toilets. And you can see the wife going, she's too old to be a hooker. And you can see that they're desperate to ask questions, but they're too polite. Okay. And that's the end of the conversation. And I'm okay with that. But if you then say to me, gosh, that's interesting, what do you actually do? You know, and then I will share my life with them. But what happens after that, when they don't talk about, you know, they change the subject and talk about something else, is the husband inevitably thinks that he's got a chance, and the wife inevitably feels threatened. So I don't know about you, but then I flirt with the wife. Okay. And I like, you know, flirt with her, and then very soon things settle down, because then she starts to feel important and his little ego is blown. But you see, I love the shock value of what I do. And so I think Fearless Teller of Necessary Truths is a very apt description for who I am. And I have no shame. So you can ask me anything and I'll tell you in detail, you know. And I think that's why I was always my kids' friends' favorite mum, because they could ask me anything.
Of course. Aren't you, you know, from Sex Education, what's his name, the kid? Felix, or, oh God, I'm going to get scrutinized for this. Crucified for this. Whatever his name is, the mother from Sex Education.
Oh, yes.
I'm always the mother.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting that you say that. It's actually hysterical because, you know, telling my parents what I was going into was just something that I just evolved into. It wasn't like, and they were shocked and horrified. My ex-husband was mortified. He thought that I'd be telling all and sundry about our sex life.
Well, that says more about him than it does about you.
Absolutely. And, you know, my parents were mortified as well. Like, what are you going to be telling people, and how embarrassing? And again, more about them. Bless them. And my children, or it was a sister or something, said, do you actually stand up and give a demonstration? You know, so people have this wild imagination of what we actually do as sex therapists, you know.
Yeah. So I've got a similar story. So when I decided what I was going to do, is this best friend that I had 3 tequilas with said, look, you can't do this unless you tell your mother and you tell your children. You know, so I said, look, not a problem. So I flew down to Durban, where my parents were living at the time, and told them what I was going to do. And my mother looked at me and shook her head and went, "Ach, my dear, can't you just be a lawyer?" And my reply was, Mum, I'm still in the screwing business. I'm just having more fun.
I love that.
And when my kid was small, it was hard for them. I don't think they kind of understood what it was about, because they were little. They were 7-ish, 6, 7, I think. You know, and there would always be sex toys in the back of the car on the way to cricket and all that sort of stuff. And I remember in grade 8, standard 6, you know, I'm old, so it was standard 6, and my son was on a bus going to play cricket, and one of the matric boys was having a go at him because, oh, your mother sells dildos. And he stood up and he said, yeah, and your mother buys them. You know, and that was the end of that.
Touché.
And then he was, in fact, a couple of years after he left school, one of the mums came into the shop and said, you know, thank you so much for your son, because much to my amazement, he was taking vibrators to school and doing show and tell. And so all the girls in his matric year knew exactly what vibrators looked like, how they worked, why they worked. All the boys knew that they were great, because he always says it's my wingman, you know. But he was in it from very small, and we just talk about sex like it's, you know, wiping your nose. It's not. There's no shame in it. There's no, you know, why should there be shame in it?
Yeah. I think my kids are also very grateful that they have me to talk to, and that we are so open about everything, that we can really talk about the nitty-gritties. I have to confess, sometimes it's a little bit like, do I really have to know so much? But it's okay, because at least I'm a safe space, and I'm a non-judgmental space for them. And I can give them information that is true,
real information,
real honest information, and it's not biased, judgmental bit of myself that I can bring forward.
I think one of the things that scares me incredibly about people raising children that are unaware is, I remember driving to school. So he must have been 6 when I got into this industry, because he was 7 at the time. And as you know, the best conversations happen in the car, because you can't look at them. So they're sitting in the back seat, they're strapped in, you're looking at the traffic, and the most interesting conversations happen in the car. And I remember him saying to me, now we're talking about 7. He says, Mom, you said that when people have sex, the penis goes into the fanny. I said, well, I would never use the word fanny, the vagina, yes. So he said, yes, but then at school, why do they say it goes up the bum? Okay, 7. So at 7, they're already having conversations about sex, whether it's real, whether it's because it can go up the bum, but that's not what normal garden variety heterosexual sex is about. And then I'm in the sex industry, and I almost want to crash the car, and I'm thinking, God, how would a normal mom answer this question? I mean, it's like quite a hectic question from a 7-year-old. And the only advice I can give is that you have to be honest, because when your child says to you, where do babies come from? Please don't tell them they come from Pick and Pay, because they're walking around Pick and Pay looking for the aisle. And then when they do find out about sex, you've added a layer of shame, because your mom doesn't lie. And why would she lie about this? It must be secret. It must be horrible. It must be shameful. It must be embarrassing. Anyway, back to the anal sex question. So I just said, yes, well, you can have sex that way. It's just, if you're going to be having anal sex, then you must remember that the anus doesn't lubricate, and you will need lube, and you've got to take it really slow. And he's got a godfather who's gay. And I said, like your fairy, because you call him the fairy godfather. I said, like your fairy godfather, he would have a lot of anal sex, because obviously his partner doesn't have a vagina. So, but straight couples also will have anal sex. It's one of the things that adults do. And then I hear parents say, oh, my child's too young for this conversation. And I'm going, people, 7, anal sex, 7.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, I'm stating the obvious. It's getting more and more explicit as we go along. If you can cast your mind back to maybe one of the most embarrassing moments in your shop, or something that you remember as being really funny, can you share them with us?
So funny, lots and lots of stories. I mean, I think that you have to keep. I don't think I've ever been embarrassed. I mean, I've been embarrassed recently, but it had nothing to do with the sex industry. But so I don't think embarrassed, because there's nothing I won't talk about. There's nothing I won't help you with. There are a couple of stories that have been told, and it's because I keep confidentiality. I wouldn't share them, because that's persons to share. But there are 2 that I'm willing to share. The first is that I used to have a guy who used to come into the shop, and he used to drop big money, and I mean like in big money, not he wouldn't buy a 50 rand panty. Okay, he used to buy underwear, lingerie, beautiful lingerie, really girly, beautiful stuff. And I thought, well, his wife must be quite large, because they were larger sizes. Anyway, and he used to come in at least once a month. And I thought, geez, this woman must have the best collection you've ever seen. And through the corner of my eye, I glimpsed him sort of holding it up. And I thought, this guy's buying it for himself. Anyway, but when I say good-looking, beautiful, strapping man, Hugo Boss suit, we're not talking, we're talking banker. Okay, definitely banker. I never knew his name, and I didn't know what he did, but banker. And eventually I clicked that this was actually for himself. And eventually I said to him, look, are you buying this for yourself? He was embarrassed. I said, no. I mean, it's quite okay if you are. So he said, yes. I said, okay, well, then why don't you rather come in at the end of a day and we'll close the shop to the public, and then you can shop and you can try on and see what you like, okay? And he said, God, that's wonderful, thank you. Because at this stage, he was paying my bond. So the next time he came in and he got everything out, then there was no scam. I mean, he didn't go into the change room to change things on. He just dropped his kit. And he was wearing the most exquisite pink frilly panties under his banker suit. Okay, and that was very hard to keep a straight face, okay, because it was like, I almost wanted to say, oh, God, where did you get those? Can I touch them? And, can I have them for me? But you had to this is perfectly normal. This is, because 11% of the population is going to be doing this. It's perfectly normal.
Every man just drops his pants and wearing frilly
pink
underwear.
Frilly panties.
Yeah.
So that was the one time that I was gobsmacked, when you completely taken aback. And then the other one is a man shared with me that he can only get an erection. And I think that this is really sad, actually, but it's very funny. He can only get an erection when a live fish flaps on his feet. Now, Trace, with all the love in the world, how the fuck would you know that? Like how? Where does it come from? And what do you do to have sex? Do you run down to the fishery and find yourself a fish? I mean, it blows my mind, And
you're standing in Mauritius, and the fish are flapping against your feet.
Maybe he's got those fish that eat your feet.
Yes, but then I hope that his partner is right there next to him. So as he gets this erection, he can just...
I didn't ask him for how long it stays, but so those were the two where I was completely taken aback and went, oh, that's nice.
Foot fetish, fine, not a problem. But as you do you run back down to the fishery quickly?
That's for me. It was just about, how do you know that?
Yeah.
How did it come to be?
Yeah, did he tell you?
I didn't ask because I had to make as if it was perfectly normal. 11% of the population only get an erection when the fish flaps on their feet. Because when you're in this industry, that's what you've got to have. Is you've got no judgment. You've got
of course.
And I can't say I judged. I was just blown away that this would be what happens.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it for a long time because it did worry me. And I think what happens is, fetishes are born, before the age of 7. The Jesuits say, give me the child before the age of 7 and he's mine forever.
Right.
And I think that our fetishes and our kinks are born then.
Right.
And I suspect that Daddy used to take him fishing. And pulling in that live fish, because it flaps when you bring it in, was incredibly exciting. Because what happened, and when it clicked for me, was I went to a cage fight, and every single man who came out of the fight had an erection. And it's that adrenaline from and that's where it comes from, I think. And so if I ever met him again, and I honestly, I wouldn't remember him if he was sitting next to me at dinner, because I don't remember people, which is why you were, an anomaly, because I do remember you. But is I would have that conversation and say, did your daddy take you fishing? Because that would have been it. And I'd really like to know what happened to the banker, because eventually I don't think there was anything left for him to buy.
That's hilarious. Sure. That's so interesting.
Yeah. But I think one of the things, and I don't know about you, because you're also in this industry, and, we're talking about the judgment that comes with it, is so before I got into this industry, I was far more promiscuous and far more adventurous. I was willing to try a lot more than I am now, because now I'm a brand. So, I've been to swingers clubs, but to work, never to participate. And and it's always only because I am terrified that it gets associated with the brand.
Yes.
And then you start getting those, because already I get 2:00 messages to say, what services do you offer?
Wow.
And I go, I'm a retail store, Chana. What can I sell you?
Yeah.
And so it has affected my personal life worse, I think. Because, Beeld always said I was koekerig maar sexy. And I've become more and more and more koekerig. I have to say. And I feel sorry for my partner because when he met me, I was a wild child. And now I'm like, you want to do what? Why?
Yeah. That's very, very interesting. And I can definitely resonate with you, especially, being an intimacy coach and, I've also got to have a certain standard I have to live up to, and I've got to behave like a good girl, otherwise there's this cancel culture, and heaven forbid. But I definitely get that.
So has anybody ever asked you? Because I've been asked a number of times. It's like, how can you give relationship advice when you've been divorced 2 times?
Oh, absolutely.
And I go,
yeah.
That's why.
Exactly. Who better? Who better to get advice from?
Yeah. And the other day, recently, actually, somebody said to me, how come you've had so many husbands and so many live-in lovers? What have you got that I don't have? I said, lower your standards, baby, lower your standards.
Yeah. Look, I think that it's also, I think we have a certain tolerance level as well as we get older. But we still are liberal in our thinking and our ability to speak. But maybe what's happening now around us is there's so much shock factor in what we're seeing that sometimes it's also okay to say, ooh, like that hurt my eyes a bit. Like that's for the sanctity of the bedroom. And I think that's with age as well. We realize that sex has a space that is special, and it is, it has a certain privacy and a finesse. And then it has its space for being loud and out there, but it's also very much age dependent, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, absolutely. I think I was watching some stuff on social media, about how you get clicks, because obviously we both we make money with the clicks that we get and the shares and whatever. And if you're listening to this podcast, go ahead. And please click. Click on Tracy's platforms, click on the Lola Montez platforms. I'm sure Tracy's going to put them up. Share, comment. You don't have to say anything. You can just clap hands or, send rude faces. I don't really mind as long as you're putting 5 of them. It's fine. Yeah. But it's specifically the TikTok thing. Okay, now I don't really understand the TikTok thing, and I know that I need to, but I don't. But this influencer on TikTok was saying the problem with TikTok is that you have to cringe to get the clicks. And I'm at the age now where I don't do anything that makes me cringe. Yeah. If I have to cringe and I have to lower my expectations of myself, I don't do it.
Absolutely.
You know what? I'd rather not have the clicks. It's fine.
Absolutely.
But if you 14, desperate to be loved, you're going to do anything. And again, if you're a mom listening to this and your child is 14, she's doing it. Don't think she's not. Not my child. She's doing it.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they don't understand is it is there forever. It never goes away. So if she is doing it, because we know that she is, please don't put her face in it. Because it was also the one thing that through the years I've always said, women never look at their vaginas. You know that people, that piece of tackle of ours is the unknown.
Yeah.
Nobody looks at it. And I wish the average woman will only look at her vagina after the birth of her first child. And then it's lelik, because it's like swollen and torn and all sorts of happy things. But Trace, I'm sure you and I fall into a different category to other people, but for listeners, if your vagina got lost and somebody found it and took it to the Sandton police station, would you recognize it?
Absolutely brilliant question.
Or would you have to get your husband to put a blindfold on and come and feel it and go, no, that's not hers. That's it. There we go. That's it. Let's take it home.
Yeah.
Because we just don't.
Yeah.
And we don't encourage our daughters to look
Yeah.
at this incredibly important piece of kit
Yeah.
for the human race to exist.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, it's important for the human race. And secondly, it is so important to your personal pleasure and the way you're going to go through life. So, you know,
Yeah.
show some respect.
Absolutely. And I mean, I love it when I speak to really religious people and I have to inform them about the clitoris, and why would God, in all his majesty, create a clitoris? For what purpose? Every other bone, muscle, fiber, whatever it is, has its purpose. And the clitoris has no other purpose in the body other than to give pleasure. And then the light comes on, and then it's amazing, you know.
9,000 nerve endings.
It's amazing. And just on the topic of looking at your vulva, and maybe even then taking a look at a whole lot of vulvas on a client of mine. She's got a vulva. Car.
A Volvo, yeah.
A Volvo. And every time she talks about her vulva, I think she's talking about her vulva. Anyway, beside the fact. And then comparing to others is really it's an enlightening experience. I remember when one of my children did that. And it has to, I believe, it has to be done in conjunction with feeling and touching and exploring, what does this feel like? What does that feel like? If I turn my finger this way, or if I poke, or if I tweeze, or if I squeeze, you know, what are these different sensations? And yeah, I think that we've got to give our children the space to
and permission.
Explore, the permission, the safety. Okay, the door's locked. Okay, let's.
Privacy.
Privacy.
I've got a huge issue with privacy. I mean, my children know I will never walk into their room without knocking and getting permission.
Me too.
But just getting back to the clitoris and its nerve endings, I saw a wonderful meme on one of the social medias which said, the clitoris has 9,000 nerve endings. If you're going to get on my nerves today, let it be those.
All 9,000. I love that. I love that. I really do. Sharon, it's been amazing to chat to you today. Really, is there anything that you would like to share with us before we close this?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I would like to share is that, you know, we only exist because of the listeners. We only exist because people need our help. We only exist if you buy the toys.
Yeah.
You know, stop saying, oh, I'd love one, and then not buying it, because the world is tough. And, you know, so do support us. If you don't want to buy a 6,000 Rand Lalo, you know, you can buy a 500 Rand whatever, you know. So, and explore. Stop judging, because, you know, it blows my mind that people will judge it, and, you know, and they're toys. So I have to talk about toys, because that's what I sell. I sell toys. They're adult toys. They're for play. They're not the end game. They're not the devil. They're not the demon. They're not going to, you know, make your husband irrelevant. They just don't make tea yet. You know, maybe when they do that, then we'll have another discussion. But they don't. So, you know, they're the great wingman. They're fantastic to use with yourself and with your partner. They are, you know, the remote control ones are just so sexy at dinner. Don't wear them in shul on a wooden bench, because, you know, everything vibrates, so, and everybody will look at you because they know it's you. So don't, you know, so support people in this industry, because we're here for a reason.
Yeah.
It may not be your reason, but we have a legitimate claim to it. We're not doing anything illegal. We're not doing anything immoral. So please, read the articles in the Saturday Star, visit the shops, go online, help me pay my bond. That would be nice. And more important, well, not more importantly, because buys are more important than clicks, but please go onto social media and follow us, like us, share us. So on Facebook, it's Lola Montez.page, and on Instagram, it's Lola Montez Boutique, spelled LolaMontez, and then normal boutique. And just, I don't think people realize that the more followers we have and the more clicks we get on social media, we can actually earn money from that and grow our brands. And I don't see, I follow you on social media, and I love the stuff that you share, because it's just so informative and so helpful. And that means I don't have to write it, so I just share it. And then, so you can learn.
Yeah.
You can learn from it. And there's no shame in it.
Yeah.
People always go, I don't want anybody to see. My best thing is, your deliveries, are they discreet? I go, yeah, they come in a normal courier bag, but the car that delivers it might be a problem because it's got a big dildo on the roof. You're buying a vibrator. You're not, getting a manual on how to kill your husband.
Yeah. It's so interesting as well, because it's become so normalized and run-of-the-mill to buy toys online and have them delivered. And I remember in my day, we were so worried that the credit card slip would have any description of where it came from.
Still today.
Amazing.
Still today.
Amazing.
What does it say on the credit card? I go, Sharon Gordon. Oh, okay. No,
thank goodness, yeah. But, you mentioned toys. And when you just talk about them as being toys, playthings, things that bring pleasure, and we need to destigmatize these toys. They are not relationship replacers. They are not to make women feel insecure or men to feel as though they're being cheated on and blah, blah, blah. They are really just to enhance pleasure. And as much as paying your bond, to educate people about the pleasurable sides of sex and the playfulness that we need to bring into our relationships. As adults, we forget how to play. We forget how to laugh. We forget how to be a bit silly. And we take sex too damn seriously.
We do.
Sex is fun. It's messy. It sometimes doesn't smell all that good, and sometimes it gets a bit, even...
Well, you need to know that the double-ended dildo is going to fall on the bed and, fall off the bed and get cat hair on it.
Yeah,
and
it
how
might
you clean
even...
it after that.
If you don't put a stop at the butt plug, it could actually land up in the emergency room.
And they won't believe you slipped in the shower.
No, they definitely won't. But, as embarrassing as that is, it's a very, very funny story, and I've heard it many, many times. So please find toys with a butt plug if you're going to be using anal
it has
play.
to have a flared base or a handle, because at the point of orgasm, the anus
sucks it all up. So thank you for joining us with all your years of experience. And I'm sure that if we had you on the show for longer, we would be laughing for many, many hours. And you've got so many pearls of wisdom to share. And I read your column in Saturday Star. I think I'm the only person in South Africa who still has a hard copy
of the newspaper
in my hands. So I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for
you've
having
given
me.
up so
Been
generously. Great. And just carrying on changing lives as much as you can. And that's what we're here for, Sharon.
Yep, that we are.
So thank you. So learner lovers, catch us on this amazing journey that we're going on with Totally Not Taboo. Join us next week for another interview with an amazing guest.